when we were first approached about speaking at the event today, I thought, what a great opportunity. I'm a morning person, but I have to tell you, 2 nights in a row, and they have to do this after the 7th inning. The bullpen is so up in the air, I can't go to bed early. So it's been a couple late evenings, so I appreciate those of you who are able to get up this morning and attend. And hopefully we'll have a quick little discussion here this morning and give you a perspective on how VMware sees the market and the need to continue to train our folks. So some of you may be familiar with Thomas Friedman. He's a New York Times columnist. He's an author. He appears on the Sunday morning talk show circuit. Thomas Friedman and I actually have a couple things in common. We both live in the Bethesda area. We both like golf. And between the two of us, we have 2 Pulitzer Prizes. Now, he's a little bit ahead of me in that respect. But he made some interesting perspectives in his book, Thank You for Being Late. And he talked about what happened in 2007. Now, while this reflects upon VMware, and he talks about the fact if it was not for our founders and the work they were doing, we would have no such thing as the cloud. A very profound statement from an author who, quite candidly, has no background whatsoever in technology. But what this I think highlights is that a lot of the things we're going to be discussing today, a lot of things talked about by Teresa earlier from Raytheon and by Suzanne, is that this is continuing to evolve. So this is the stuff we're going to discuss has not been around for 100 years. This is continuing to come from times that are not that far back. And so what we have to keep in mind is that technology is fantastic, but it also amplifies behaviors, good and bad. And we see that today in all our walks of life and everything we do. But we have to make sure that technology is focused on the good, and to some people it focuses simply on the bad. And we can't let that happen. We need to continue to be investing on a regular basis in our folks so technology is always for the good. And if you think about this, technology or tech as a force for good, it doesn't really matter whether it's helping support your first responders in your communities, or maybe those first responders around the world up in natural disasters. It may have something to do with telehealth, ways to continue to do that outreach that before it wasn't available to some communities. And it could just be another learning platform. All these pieces, I think we all would agree, are very good and very positive, and just but a glimpse of what technology today does for us. But this really centers around how we have to engineer for the good as well. We have to keep it in mind as we develop our products and our technology from the very beginning. We're thinking about what the good consequences are, because we have the law of unattended consequences. We have privacy. Privacy is constantly at risk. We see it all the time. How many of us, when we download an app to our phone, really actually read the privacy statements that go along with that particular application? We have disinformation at scale. Here in D.C., we read about it all the time when we think about elections and the issues that came up on the most recent elections and the continued investigations that we find more and more things coming out all the time. This is something that is going to be here for a long, long period of time. And so again, back to that engineering for good. I have a little problem with the clicker. And then we have cybercrime at scale. None of these things are necessarily new concepts to any of us in this room, but it's to highlight the fact that from the very beginning, we have to be thinking about how are we going to use these technology platforms for good. And if we're going to understand that there are always going to be bad actors out there, then we have to take a different approach. And a lot of our approach at VMware is going to be centered upon how do we help improve our technology posture? How do we help improve our people's awareness and build those skills up so that technology can be for good? Oops. So all this leads to one kind of interesting aspect to everybody who sits in this room. There has never been a more exciting time to be a technologist. And at the same time, there's never been a more important time to be a technologist. And I think that all of us would agree that when we got into this particular field, we probably didn't have a lot of vision of where this field would be today, and for that matter, where we continuing to see it evolve to. But one of the things that's very, very certain, every day is a new day. Every day there's something new to learn. Every day we have a chance to have an impact, both in government and in the communities in which we live. And that's where I'd like to take our discussion from here. So at VMware, we have this concept, we have this vision of any cloud, on any application, on any device. That's really the forefront of where we come from. Today, you can run a VMware platform on Amazon's web services, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, IBM. We really don't care. You can put those platforms anywhere you want. We know that today more and more people have devices that 15 years ago, 10 years ago, never existed. We have smart applications inside of our refrigerators or inside of our stoves to let us know when something's cooked. You have to have a way to connect those devices. You have to have a way to manage those devices. You have to have a way to secure those devices. And secure becomes the most important aspect in this. Too often, we have bolted technology on top. I heard Admiral Rogers from U.S. Cyber Command speak earlier, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he talked about the fact that when security is bolted onto technology, that's a hacker's dream, because it's not built in from the very beginning. It's not built in from the ground up. It makes it very simplistic to penetrate those type of situations. So we need to build security in from the very beginning, whether it's into the application, into the device, and into the cloud infrastructure that it may be supported on top of. If you look at what's going on, I'm going to build this out a little bit. One of the things that we see on a regular basis is that the evolution and the types of areas that can be hit are changing rapidly. It doesn't matter whether it's ransomware, it doesn't matter whether it's malicious attacks, it doesn't matter if it's self-inflicted wounds or just someone forgot to patch something. These are the real live issues that are going on day to day. And so we have to ask ourselves, from a readiness, a response, a recovery, and resiliency standpoint, how are we prepared? Are we taking the actions inside of our organization to look at those 4 R's? And if we're not, we need to start thinking about it today, about how we're going to improve so that we can be ready the next time something happens, that we can actually recover from one of these situations without having our infrastructure set down for a week. This isn't going to happen magically. We have to take the steps to ensure organizations are ready to do that. And so we believe this concept of the cyber range becomes very, very simplistic. It's a platform, it's a simulation platform that organizations can stand up and use on a regular basis to make themselves better, to improve the stature of their employees from a readiness, feel comfortable that when a situation happens, they're not opening up manuals and trying to figure out what am I going to go do next. By 2022, 15% of the largest enterprises we feel will be using cyber ranges to develop the skills of their cyber teams. We heard earlier from Teresa, from Raytheon, and also from Suzanne, that there aren't enough people out here to be trained, or excuse me, there are not enough people out in the workforce. It's an underemployed area of the workforce to be able to hire enough folks. We've got to build our own workforces. We've got to build our own cyber teams. We've got to improve their skills on a regular basis. And if we don't do those sort of things, unfortunately, those 4 R's are not going to help us. We're going to continue to see these particular problems accelerate. Think of the cyber range as the simulator. Today, most pilots fly more hours in a simulator prior to actually sitting in the cockpit than they do actually on the plane doing their various. It gives us the ability to try different areas. What happens if this engine fails? What happens if we have problems with these flaps? What if I'm having a problem with my radar systems? They can play so many different what-if scenarios, so a pilot always feels prepared. This has become a huge safety issue that allows us to feel very comfortable, as many of us probably do, to go to one of our local airports and get on a plane and know that pilot's probably been through almost every single scenario you could throw at them, and he's done it in some type of simulator. Cyber range is nothing more than a concept of a simulator that we put into your environment. So let's talk about some of these use cases. We can develop that cyber range baseline. We can look at dynamic exercises, capture the flag type of scenarios you can take your employees through. And we can do simulated environments. What happens if I'm evolving in different models that may come about. What if I have network protection simulations? That way your employees can always be prepared for what is next. And we think this needs to be done on scale. This isn't a group. The cyber awareness, cybersecurity is an issue for all the employees of an organization, not just a handful of people that might work under the CIO or under the CISO. It's everybody's problem. Everybody needs to be aware. Everybody needs to be a part of that cyber protection force. At VMware, we're taking a lot of the things that we've already developed in-house in terms of our digital learning platform and building on top of that these type of capabilities. We're doing it by ourselves. We're also partnering with other organizations. We'll get to that in half a second. But we think this is an ongoing issue. That's also a way for us to leverage and for customers to leverage platforms and technology that they already have inside their environments. That'll help reduce the cost, the awareness of the technology platforms that people already have. But it becomes critical this is not a one and done. Organizations will continue to have new people coming in on a regular basis, and they need to be able to take their folks and put them this sort of training on a regular basis. I'm going to build this out for us a little bit in the interest of time to keep us on track here this morning. So the cyber range solution is very simplistic in its approach. We're taking that consistent infrastructure, whether it's virtual machines, containers, what have you. Again, platforms that your employees are already, your teams are already very well aware of. And we're putting a consistent learning platform, a control plane. So you can take your own data and put it into the range. Or, as I said, we've partnered with a company called Grim. We can take their technology and put it into the solution as well. What that allows is for you to use either your own type of simulations, maybe eventually use a third-party company's simulations. But again, your folks are always becoming aware of different types of environments, different types of situations they might see. How will they react? Will they have to open manuals? Or will they be able to just go on muscle memory and respond to the particular situation? We feel that will be a huge advantage to organizations over the long term. If you look at the Grim platform, it really is kind of a crawl, walk, run type environment where you can have foundational type classes, foundation type exercises people go through, intermediate and advanced. All this continuing to build on the skill levels. And again, your employees in many cases are craving these type of skills. They want to be better prepared. They want to understand how they can defend these environments. And as I talked about earlier, this is an underemployment area. There are not enough skilled folks out there. So let's build the skills of our current workforce. Let's make them more effective. Let's make them the first responder of this cyber warfare area. Continue to build this out here a little bit for you. There's a variety of solutions and value pieces that come along with this area. And so I don't want to hit upon each and every single one of them, but as you can see, it's a value chain that continues to evolve. And as new people come into the organization, they may have very specific skills around one particular area, but maybe weak in others. So it's not trying to be one particular type of product, nor is one type of event going to save or actually defend your organization. It's going to be a combination of these pieces. It's going to be a combination of platforms. And I want to be very clear, there are a variety of other companies that are out there doing this. And while I think we're one of the solutions that are out there, it's imperative that companies and agencies take the initiative and start doing this sort of work themselves on a regular basis. One of the places you'll see this just this past month in October, where VMware has taken this cyber range concept, we took it to 3 separate initiatives. One here locally, people may be familiar with Dreamport up in Howard County and some of the work they're doing in combination with U.S. Cyber Command, DISA, the NSA. Really some interesting stuff. We're doing a riot in the factory type simulation with that environment. We've done some work down in North Carolina with their cyber awareness symposium, and we've also done some work down in Augusta, Georgia, in their cyber awareness. So everybody, you can see this is not just a DC thing. This is spreading throughout. It's spreading in the state and local areas. It's spreading in the federal areas. It's spreading healthcare, financial services. Everybody is concerned about that, and you see that from the speakers that have been lined up today. It's not very often that someone who is speaking, typically speaks to the federal marketplace, is on the same agenda as someone from Under Armour and someone from Uber. This is not just a U.S. federal issue. This is an industry-wide issue. This affects our entire economy, and it's something we all need to be aware of. So again, VMware's concept of any cloud, on any application, on any device, we think is just foundational. Security's got to be built in every way, shape, or form. We have to make sure that we're aware in every way, shape, and form, that our employees are prepared, that we're constantly building on those particular skills, and we want to be a partner with those in this room and within your companies, within your agencies. With that, I thank you very much for your time this morning. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and as everyone else has said, go Nats.